Hello, everyone. I'm Meredith with Conversations with Friends, and we're going to be talking about finding one's calling in life. But the story is going to get very, very interesting and very inspiring in just a couple of minutes when you hear about this person. So let's start. And I want you to meet somebody who, many people don't find a calling in life, or maybe it's not so powerful. Other people, it can happen at any time. You could be 4 years old and or not really, but young. When you find your calling, what's your purpose in life? And often it has to do with your talents or things that you love to do. But I'm really thrilled to tell you that Liz Sousa, who is my guest today, she found this calling, this purpose, very passionate purpose in life just 3 years ago, and has just been going full force since then. And nothing usually just involves you, it's always somebody else, right? A cause, a hospital, education. Well, hers has to do with horses. And it's a very, very inspiring, very interesting story because I didn't know so much about, the horses that are really, really in trouble in our country, wild horses. And Liz is going to share how it happened, what she learned, what she found out about the suffering of these horses. And we're going to learn more about what it is she's doing along with a lot of other women. So Liz, it's great to have you on the program.
Having me.
We've been neighbors for a long time. We go back many years, and I didn't even know you were doing this. We walk at night often together or pass each other. And Liz is always on the phone talking about horses and animals and trying to arrange, to help these animals. So let's start by just saying, Liz, first of all, how did it happen for you? How did you discover what you really felt your passion in life?
I was on Instagram, and I do subscribe to animal channels. I'm a member of PETA, however you want to say, the Humane Society of the United States, my local Humane Society. And I'm always having these type of things coming up, like most people, on your phone. And Ashley Avis, who did the production of the new remake of Walt Disney's Black Beauty, came up, and she was doing investigative for a new movie about horses, and she stumbled along a roundup happening in Utah, and she detoured everything, and she documented the abuses that were happening. And there is a documentary out on Prime Video where you can see actually everything I was seeing at that time in real time back in 2021. And I was just disgusted, and I just never knew that our federal government was treating our federal mustangs, taxpayer money on public land, that they were rounding them up and disposing of them in this way. And just something in me snapped. And I said, I have to be involved. I need to help. I felt the horses calling to me.
So they calling to you means that you just knew that these animals were really suffering. And
I felt
as they were dying,
in their eyes,
now, as we speak,
in their body language, their eyes. Ashley did a very good job of close-ups and getting there and really showing you what was going on with these horses. And she's a professional cinematographer, and so that helps, and journalist and does documentaries, so that helps, having it presented in a very professional and thorough way. But it resounded in my soul. So
and so you said, I've got to look more, I've got to look into this, I've got to understand this. And we've had a few conversations about this, and you've done a tremendous amount of research about what is happening. And you mentioned there are these wild mustangs, and we've got some pictures to show. Beautiful, beautiful horses. Well, to me, all horses are. I love horses, and I know, of course, how much you love horses.
Right.
There you are. And is this a horse that you actually rescued?
Yeah, most of the horses that we've rescued, I think everything that you have, either I've rescued or I've been instrumental in rescuing.
Mhm.
And some of those are at quarantine after they've been rounded up. I've helped them find homes and networked with people all across the United States, trying to give refuge and help the American Mustang.
Mm. And how many Mustangs are out there on public lands? I mean, we're
Okay,
talking a lot of
okay,
Mustangs, a
right now,
lot of wild
yes.
horses.
The latest data out, 2023, we have 86,000 free roaming horses living on 28 million acres of public lands controlled by the Bureau of Land Management, known as BLM, which is
Yeah.
taxpayer funded. And so these roundups with helicopter and killing these horses and rounding them up and giving them a miserable existence, we are paying for it as taxpayers.
It's not, well, they're not killing them on the spot. There's a process, isn't there? They go somewhere
They will
else
kill them on
and
the
they end up
spot.
in another
They will
country, right?
they will kill them on the spot
Well, they
if they
will.
find them not in good condition. If it's not uncommon for a horse to have a cataract, or maybe blind in one eye, or maybe a little bit limping after being run miles and miles. If the BLM sees that these horses are not in good shape, they actually take a gun and they shoot them.
Wow.
And
And
if a foal, they in this year's roundup, they're constantly rounding up, and you can find on the Bureau of Land Management, they have to publish it, so you can see when this is happening and where, and you can go out and see it for yourselves. That is our right as taxpayers. Sometimes they don't let you very close, or they put you behind a mountain so you can't see things very clearly. But this year there was a lot of advocacy and outrage because they should not have been doing these roundups during foaling season. That means when the horses are having their babies. And a few of these horses were just a few days old and couldn't keep up with everybody. And they either died because they were exhausted, or they got lost. And a lost horse by itself in the wilderness is a death sentence.
wow, so these horses really, I mean, I just want to call them, like humans can be, victims, aren't they? They're just victims of a very bad system, you know, of taking the opposite of taking care of horses, but of just getting rid of horses that, what do they think, have no use anymore in you know, on the public lands? Is that, I mean, why are they doing this?
Right now, we have in holding that the taxpayers are paying 63,922 horses that are all crowded in across 10 states. And they if they find one that's a little sick, they kill him. And they do try to do some auctions, but it's too many horses to adopt out. So some of these horses, and what I try to prevent is these horses to go into the slaughter pipeline. We cannot slaughter horses in this country by law. I think President Nixon signed this back in 1971, the Burro and Mustang Wild Horse Act. But we can ship these horses. If you have a license, you can ship these horses to either Canada or Mexico that do have slaughter facilities.
And so what they do, you know, I really even don't want to bring this up on, you know, on our program, you know, but I think it's important to say what is done with these horses once they're slaughtered, right? For people to just get it, how horrific it is. Yeah.
Right. They are sent to, even Canada eats horse meat. Okay.
Really,
Europe eats horse meat is on the menu in French restaurants, Italian restaurants, grocery stores. Europe eats horse meat. It's a cheaper meat than beef. And Japan orders our horse meat. Also, Canada eats horse meat. Canada has their own horses, but they also are used by American kill pen owners to ship their wares up to Canada for the slaughtering purposes. and so the slaughterhouse will pay for the American mustangs and other horses also.
So this is, what I'm hearing from you, or, just having had a couple of conversations about this, this is big business. This is big business.
Very big business.
Isn't it? This is all about money,
It's
about greed, about just total insensitivity, and it's allowed. That to me is what, really concerns me, that this is going on. And I don't know, you said, you saw a video, and I'm sure there've been things on, in the media, but not enough to cause some kind of a, uproar in our country. Like when it comes to a lot of other issues, we find out about them. I mean, not just find out about them,
most
but
Americans,
we really,
right. Most Americans don't know that this is happening.
Yeah.
Most Americans do not know this is happening. And the Bureau of Land Management publishes false information. They do not have any scientific evidence backing up that they need to round these horses up because there's too much of population. They have no real scientific evidence. No one knows, and no one has ever got any information of how they got their numbers to be able to relieve the land of so many wild horses.
Mm-hmm. So your feeling is, according to the organization, I want to say too that there's quite a few organizations that are involved with this, right?
Yes,
I mean, supporting your work,
right.
And so they all really understand what's happening, and it's all happening. I want to say behind closed doors, right? I mean, this is kind of like a secret where people know about it, but they don't, because again, we're talking economy, money. People just keep it quiet until something, let's face it, until something becomes an issue.
Right.
So my question is, how does this work now, your work? And it involves a lot of, I'll say, women have really seized this issue, and all over the country. So, and I know, again, I've seen you on the phone talking to a lot of women, and where we're going to move them here, how we're going to get them out. So maybe you could explain, this process.
Well, I started out just donating to the cause, and then I felt moved to do more.
Mm-hmm.
I was asked to do more. And so I helped set up transporters, and I found good ones and bad ones. And I've, muddled my way through this to be able to know who's who and what's what at this point. But I would help get them out of the kill pens, or get them out of the auctions where they would go to the kill pen, because we try to prevent them going to the kill pen, because if they go to the kill pen, there's a large chance that they are going to be sent overseas. So we have a network in Colorado, Kansas, Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. These women visit the auction houses. We get pools of funds together, and we get them out of there. I help organize transport to get them to safe sanctuaries. But there's too many. I mean, it's sometimes it's overwhelming, and I just have to say, just help one horse at a time. That's all you can.
Well, so I think that is kind of maybe the mantra of a lot of people, that they want to help, and especially, you say it's mostly women. They want to do as much as they can, but there's only, well, you're doing a lot. You are doing a lot, and so you have to feel proud or satisfied that you are. But as you're saying, there's a lot more to do. Right. And so I'm wondering, the power of the media. We just all know, look, you were watching a video, or you learned about this, and you were awakened, right? You were awakened to a cause.
Yes.
So is maybe an important point is to get this out as much as possible. And I think that you're all doing that right now too.
Right.
To reach people and let people know what's happening, So, yeah. And so when you say there's so much for you to do, do you travel, or is this all done online or by phone, or because there's a lot of coordinating with this, and a lot of detective work really too, right? finding out where these horses are being taken, who's taking them, when they're being taken. I mean, this is just like big project,
Right.
constant project, right?
Right. There's a lot of logistics involved. I have found out that I'm pretty competent in the logistic department with this type of exercise. So I do connect a lot of people together, and then they can coordinate directly. But I do sometimes have to pay for transportation for them to get to a sanctuary. There are people coming on board. There is a place in Alabama who has a large amount of land. She said, I do not want to be known. They're a very wealthy family in Alabama. And she says, I'll put the people, you put the Mustangs, and I will give them sanctuary. But she doesn't want to be known because she doesn't want everybody calling her, but she trusts me enough. And so I'm helping to coordinate that with her. And there are a couple other people that have felt confidence enough to reach out to me to help me where they can help without being publicized, because they're high profile people.
Yeah. And as you say, they don't want to be, I don't want to say, I use the word inundated, but I mean, there's only, like you said, so many horses.
Because that will happen.
But, when something becomes a movement, things happen very quickly. And I've seen it spiritually, because, the Brahma Kumaris very involved with spreading peace and compassion, which to me, what you're all about, your organization is all about, peace for these animals, not killing these animals, and compassion. All of you, how many women are involved with this? And a few good men
that I speak to on a regular basis, which is at least every other day. And if we're doing a big project, like maybe a group of 20 Mustangs, I might have to speak to them for a whole week. But I would say that my key people that keep me informed and help me with the logistics and are very active, I would say there's about 40 women. Across the whole. I just connected with another one just out of St. Augustine. She is going to provide a large sanctuary area, and she's connected up with me just this past week. And so yeah, and I do check up. People have to send me pictures, and I have to know that they're okay, and I send people out to check on them, because I feel when I do have a Mustang, I have to follow it through to make sure it doesn't wind up again in auction or a kill pen.
Liz, it sounds like a full-time, more than a job, a profession. As I said at the beginning, a calling. But I did want to say, I don't think I said at the beginning, in fact, I didn't, that you were actually a businesswoman.
Yes.
And involved with the family business, right? Helping to run your own family business. So did all the family business stuff have to, take a back seat?
I spend a lot of late nights working. So I did have to hire another assistant. And I am actually two. One woman is actually going to come on full-time helping me. So I can kind of farm out some of my responsibilities, and I'm training her in. She'll be ready this summer to take on a lot of these phone callings and logistics.
For the horses, right?
For
the horses, right.
Exactly. So I, because it is so absorbing. And I do want to mention, Meredith, because these horses can go to sanctuary, they can get trained and homed and actually find a home. They can be wild. There is a movement that I'm involved with. It's called the Wild Horse Fire Brigade, where we have scientists on the Oregon-California border that have Mustangs, and they're monitoring them and making sure that they thrive, because at this rate, we will have an extinction of our American Wild West Mustang as we know it.
Wow. So, just listening to you, it's hard for me to, so many bad things do happen in the world, we know, but this is hard for me to grasp. To understand, maybe being a horse lover or all animals really. The Brahma Kumaris are vegetarians. A lot
Yes.
of them even are vegans. So they have a great love, for animals. And if we're not in harmony with the animals, and if we're hurting animals, that's like really a bad thing, not even just not in harmony with them, but actually making them suffer and putting them through this. It's just an awful thing. So you must feel very satisfied in that respect too,
Well,
to
I
just
do
know
believe,
that you, like you said, you're doing something and you're creating change. You're creating a change in our country, in our
well,
consciousness.
Meredith, I
Yeah,
do believe because your listeners are
right.
into meditation and health and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have some horses that are being trained and that have been rounded up, that are mustangs that are being trained um, into hippotherapy, which is using horse therapy for healing.
Mm-hmm.
The horse, if you're within 8 to 10 feet of a horse, this is scientific. You could look it up in wellpower.org. But the horse lowers our heartbeat
Mm-hmm.
and reduces our cortisol, which is our stress hormones. It reduces it. It's proven.
Mm-hmm.
So it does, if you're within an 8 to 10 feet area of a horse, you do not have to be touching a horse. It will lower your heartbeat. And if you look into a horse's eyes for long enough, and this is not, I've done this, but there's evidence behind this. A horse will, looking into a horse's eyes for an extended amount of time, is a meditative type of process and will calm your mind.
That is a
When they,
beautiful,
I thought you would
thing to
like,
know. I didn't even know
right?
it myself, and I did
Yes,
have a horse once, many many years ago, living out west in the
yes.
woods, in the mountains, and I do know that feeling of there's a connection. It's like a spiritual connection with a horse, and I think you can't even. I personally can't even explain it. You explained it very well until you are around a horse. This
Right.
feeling and. It is so I can understand if you can feel that peace inside from being around a horse, what that is all about. Then just the fact that people have saved these horses, rescue these horses, then the horse must. You think the horse must have some kind of instinct that he or she has been saved too, and
I feel
protected.
they do. I feel they do because that is my personal connection. Is I feel, and I always say, you're welcome and you're safe, and I lay hands on them. And but the hippotherapy can improve balance, motor
Mm.
skills, reduce
Oh,
anxiety, improve communication, and help recover from addiction. I know a few places that are using it for veterans who have had a lot of post-traumatic stress, and they do this horse therapy, and there is a marked improvement. There is a friend of mine in Webster, Florida, who has such a place, and there is a Native American local woman who is going to start using some of my horses for her hippotherapy for people that have been human trafficked. She's going to start that this year.
so the many things that horses can offer, especially these
Yes.
ones that have been, really probably, well, hopefully they haven't all been had suffered. They all haven't suffered because they were freed before
Right.
anything
Right.
happened to them, right?
Right.
Now, as I understand it, you have something going on here in Davie, right? With the horses.
I
Is
do.
it you're a sanctuary for horses? Or
Um, it it
what do you
it
call that? Yeah.
it can be. I do have a few rescues here in Davie.
Mm-hmm.
And I do, if people need boarding facilities for their horse, because Davie is being very crowded out. Boarding facilities are selling out to big business of land development in
Yeah.
Davie, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, an acre of property can be 500 up to 500, just a vacant land, $500,000 per acre. They're buying
Mm-hmm.
up the nurseries, they're buying up land all over, and some of these boarding places are closing. So I am for a very economic price. Some of these people who have their own personal horse, I'm letting them come and have a facility where they can feel peace. And I have somebody living on the property to watch the horses, make sure they're proper nutrition and everything like that. But yes, we do have that available, and most of my horses are rescues, and a couple of these therapists who are going to use for healing are picking out a couple of the horses that I have here in Davie that will be starting to be trained in with people to help them with these symptoms and these states of mental state that they're in.
So from one idea, of just rescuing the horses, I don't mean just, but, getting involved with this, look what it's led to. Another, more progress, more steps being taken, to do good in the world. That's really what this is all about, helping, you say people that are, need therapy, people who are suffering, physical. Do you have so you have a bigger vision even for what this work can turn into?
Right. I feel the horse. This is my,
yeah.
I know a lot of people feel like this in my groups, but I feel the horse is a very spiritual animal. Yeah. It represents the West, the running horse. It's like freeing of your spirit. Poets, authors, everybody has used that. Even Black Beauty was a book. The author did that as advocacy for horses many years ago. And so that is something that my spirit, when we talk about calling, I really believe my spirit connected with horses because they're so spiritual. So I think that was what grabbed me.
So it sounds to me like the horses out there, these wild horses in need, were calling out to you. Yes. You were called to do this work, but they were calling you, there was something going on between you and these horses. And so I'm sure that there are many women, but I'm just curious. I think this is wonderful that women are doing this, but do men not want to get involved? They're too busy, or they're involved in other things? Is there a reason?
We do have men who provide quarantine. When they come from these dirty kill pens, they can have diseases and they can be very sick. So we always have to place a horse in quarantine for at least 30 days to make sure that they are healthy enough to go get trained, sanctuary, so they don't spread it on to other horses. So we do have gentlemen that have quarantine facilities and that transport the horses from the kill pens to the quarantine facilities for us. And some of these guys have never appreciated these horses. They have their own personal horse, but they're kind of this cowboy. A lot of them they're all out west. They're Texans and Oklahoman, and they're all out west, and they didn't come across with the same appreciation for these throwaway horses, and now they have.
Beautiful. So they they've transformed themselves. They've transformed just by, and also maybe just by knowing what you're all doing is, that has to have an effect. And that to me is the beauty of when you do things that really are here to help the world, help animals, help people. There's often something else behind it, where people change. As you change, the world changes.
Yes.
And I think that's a very powerful example, that is, the men are around this and they begin to see it differently. And it's not the Wild West experience. It's a very gentle, caring experience that they can have. And so that's really just beautiful. Is there, I mean, I know you could probably use lots of people to help, but it's not that easy because it's this is happening in certain places in the world, in the country, right? But if a person wanted to somehow become involved, is there any recommendation to do anything, how they could help?
Yes, there is. There are a number of, and I've found organizations that don't really have the best they don't want the best for the horse. It's kind of, they're doing these things for their own personal gain. But I've been able to weed out a lot of them. That's kind of what I focus on, making sure I know who's good and who's not. And my personal experience with these people and visiting these people and knowing these people. So there is a list of small and medium sanctuaries that do need help.
So I think that there are other people out there, Liz, like you, maybe not quite like you yet, but people are touched, you know, when they hear about the suffering of animals. I mean, we hear about it with dogs, you know, we hear about it with cats.
And also a very good organization, which I should mention.
You want to mention?
The Wild Horse Fire Brigade. They rewild horses, and they are scientists, and they are documenting, and they lead the way, and they come up against the government saying, here's what we have documented. And they have won certain areas where they are not able to pick up those horses because they have shown that this horse area does not need to be rounded up. So and they believe the very natural way of letting the horses back out in nature, and they would be my number one pick if you want to see the horse released back again into nature. The rewilding is the Wild Horse Fire Brigade.
So let's say that again, just for if anybody is interested, they can search for it.
Yes, the Wild Horse Fire Brigade. And the gentleman, his name is William Simpson, and their horses have a mission. Horses, the way that you can look it up, but the way they eat, they take away the way they pull up the grass and they graze, it just leaves land. The way they process in the form of eating, and so they prevent the food for wildfires to expand. So they actually, insurance companies are looking into this. We don't have this in Florida, but out west they have problems with wildfires. And that is very hard to stop. The wild horses, if you graze them in certain areas, you will stop the wildfire to be coming into the cities and destroying the cities.
Wow. So
and that is what he's doing. And he has proved that. He has proved that, and insurance companies are inquiring government because it's billions of dollars when these forest fires get out of control.
So this is just yet another reason. To me, the most important is we don't want animals to suffer, and we don't want to lose animals through such a horrendous way. And is to stop that. To me, it's that. But as you say, there's a lot of reasons, you know, to make sure that these horses not just don't suffer, but that they survive, you know, and they can stay on the land that, you know, they were here first, right? Horses were here first before we were here. And so they belong on the land, you know, and legally they are allowed on the land because there's been no law, right? There's no law that says, you know, the horses have to leave the land for, you know, to take the place. I mean, so that more people can come on, or more money, you know, can be thrown into this whole thing to make money off horses.
Meredith, I should. Why would you take a bunch of wild horses and spend all this money? You have cattle ranchers that want and pay the government for $1.35 per head. That's how cheap it is to rent this land for their cattle and sheep herders. You have the oil industry has reared its ugly head and wants to fracking practices to extract oil out of the West. And so they want the wild horse off of there. Why don't they want to get the deer and the antelope and the moose out of it? Because there are hunting season and it produces money, hunting permits. You cannot hunt wild horses. It's illegal. So they don't have any monetary value. So these Western states want to exterminate them.
Well, I think I could talk to you all day about this, and we've had conversations about this. There's so much involved, and it's just really, really inspiring, you know, to meet someone like you that's doing the work, and to hear about all these other women, especially, but, you know, men who are being moved by this to to help. And I just do believe that that's how things change, one person after another, here's another person, and that's how the world changes. So you definitely are in that category of changing the world, just one horse at a time. And
Yes.
just really a delight to get to, I already know you, I can't say meet you, to get to interview you and talk
Well,
about
thank you for giving me a forum to be able to spread the word. And I will give organizations that I deem that are the real thing and authentic and are out there with the same mission I am, and who I do work with also. Sometimes I donate, sometimes I help them get horses, sometimes I help them get horses quarantine, but in some capacity I have worked with these organizations and I know who they are. So I will supply, so there is a list, and then everybody, and I will supply the name of the documentary movie on Prime Video and Apple TV right now that my friend Ashley Avis produced.
Well, that's really important
beautiful
too.
She will tell the real story. She will tell the story, and it really moved me, this documentary, because I was watching and in communication at the same time that she was doing that. I had no idea she was doing a documentary. So when I saw the documentary, it was all of the information that started me to actually get involved. The real information with the real horses at the real time, having the fights with the real BLM people, and all of that was in the documentary, and it moved me. And I cried when I saw it, because I thought that was the spark. That's what sparked.
The power of the media,
Yes.
People complain and say, oh, the media is so terrible. And then you hear a story like this, the power of the media to inspire powerful, positive change in the world. And I just feel that we have to keep going with that. And that as that happens, where people do even have more respect for the media and more and people in the working, as journalists, filmmakers, artists, realize that they can help create change. That's how the world is going to change. And so I thank you so much for taking the time. And I can see you're very, very busy. And it sounds to me like you do not have much time. I don't know how you sleep with all these phone calls and texts and everything.
It's a labor of love.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And I want to thank our technical director, Nita Saxena, and of course, the Brahma Kumaris for sponsoring this series that we've been doing on, really, it's about making a difference in the world, conversations with friends. And so we have new friends and we have old friends. So friends that have been with us for a long time, and then we're gathering new friends that we feel are really committed to world change. So thank you for joining us. And so good to see you.
Okay, you
Liz.
too.
Om Shanti. Bye-bye.